shut it off because the job said 13 more minutes. So I thought, I won't fight with it. Well, you know, especially if I'm going to stream this, you can see it stopped there. I got a CNC cam. Yeah. So I 3D printed a fixture to put any cell phone onto a tripod. And that turned out to be a good idea. It's because now I actually got CNC cam over there. Next is the printer cam.
Oh, we're getting some people showing up. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it looks like everyone's getting their sound and their config going. But there is that slippery slope because it's always, well, if I get a little bit more, and then you can always get more, like you ultimately wind up with a 6090 with that 2.5 kilowatt spindle, 240 volt all around,
and talking to Hydro about getting
350 pounds.
Yeah, exactly, and getting Hydro to put in three-phase power.
Yeah, you got to get wiring put in, and that's where it all leads to. Of course,
you just move the stove.
Anything less.
I guess the other thing you could consider is for this one, maybe you can just consider it all throwaway, and you're going to screw it up and then, but by the time you finish breaking it, you'll know what you want to buy.
Yeah, that's kind of, I don't like the word throwaway, but because I've got all kinds of bigger machines with bigger spindles and this and that, but I enjoy having one because I can take it and I can walk down the street with it. I can bring it wherever I want, and I can add some capacity to what I'm doing. Like one machine's busy, I could in theory run a job on one of these little machines. And they're small, the spindles aren't very powerful, but that's part of the portability. So if you take that away, now you're adding these big block power supplies and you're getting out of that portable business, like a portable computer. It just runs off of like a little wall wart type thing, like from a portable computer. Yeah. So in a way, you could get a bigger machine, and I'm not debating, like a lot of people might want to go that route, but it's nice to have this extra portable machine too. So I'm arguing that get that first to get in the game, because getting in the game by trying to get a bigger, more serious machine just means investing more. And will you be buying the perfect machine on your first try? That's the thing. Some people need a 6090 and some people don't, but it's really hard to tell at this point. That's part of my debate. But anyway, I'll just let that stand and see what everybody else wants to say about it. Let's do a round table while we're getting warmed up here.
Which corner do we start at on the round table?
Well, they're all different.
I'll open it since since I opened my big mouth. So I'm Darcy. I'm all into CNC, as everybody knows. I think everybody knows me here. Yeah. But I've invited others, so I think there's some people that don't know each other. So all know me. I'm just sort of a general troublemaker in the community. So
all true.
I guess David is probably new to our group. So let's start with Dave. David, since he's new. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Dave?
You're kind of cutting out a bit.
Okay.
We lost Dave.
We
He's good. It looks like he's still connecting again.
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, let's see if Andrew's sound's working.
He's muted.
Mm-hmm.
You might be looking for unmute.
Yeah, lower left-hand corner.
Or the host can probably unmute for him.
Or you can use chat. Or he's okay.
Or he's not there right this instant.
Yeah, he could be not there yet. Yeah. Okay. And looks like Lakota's there. Okay, so much for it was more because Dave is new and everybody else, I think we roughly know each other a little bit. So anyway, I'll just stop talking for a little bit.
Back.
There we go.
He's shown up again.
Welcome back, Dave.
Yeah. Nice to meet everybody.
Yes, good to meet you.
I can hear you now. Great.
Yeah, so Darcy, I had a training session with him it was a couple of years ago, and really into CNC, really into 3D printing. I'm an artist. I
Cool.
don't know if you can see the guy behind me.
I was looking.
Building this guy based on French maker designer's model. First fully, 6-foot humanoid robot. So yeah, I'm very interested in this. I'd like to be able to apply the whole, be able to manufacture in 3D, like be able to, sculpt, route, all that stuff. So
Cool.
that's why I'm here.
Very cool.
Nice to meet everybody.
Hey,
Nice to meet
yeah, thanks, David.
Yeah.
Well, I guess now that Dave's here, I guess he's the new guy, so we could do a really fast round table for him. Dave knows me, so whoever wants can just jump in. Maybe Ray, since he was starting earlier.
I joined the maker group. I've learned bundles, and there's bundles more to learn, and it's been a pretty good ride for me. What can I say? And I know a little about CNC, and I knew nothing to begin with.
And now Ray's helping us all out, So
With Fusion for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
A little bit, but it's nice to it's nice to pay back.
Yeah. I'm
So how about
Doug.
Doug next?
Yeah, I'm Doug in the Aurora there. And I have 2 machines right now, and I'm in the process of making a 3rd machine. They vary in size from something about the size that you guys are contemplating making, all the way up to the final machine will be 1 meter by 1 meter in size, but that's a work in progress. And the other one's a 60-40. But I'm here just to help out and hear what you guys are thinking about, and listening to what it is you're trying to accomplish, because then we can think about some programming aspects to make sure that we sort of fine tune what you're interested in with stuff that we're already doing or have already solved. And yeah, that'd be cool. Andrew.
How about Dan next?
Oh,
okay,
Dan.
fine. Yeah.
Dan.
Yeah.
He's on.
Yeah. I just had my work calling me at the same time. I had to hang
Oh,
up.
sorry.
Yeah, I'm Dan. I'm more into the software side of things. I do have a 3D printer, which I've dabbled a little bit with, and this would be my first CNC machine. However, they're calling me again. I did grow up playing a lot in my dad's machine shop, so. In terms of lathes and milling machines and some none of that's computer controlled. Obviously, this is many years ago, but but I do know about machining in general, so I got a little bit of that background too.
Cool.
How about
All right,
Andrew, since he's now floating, and Doug called him.
So I guess I've been hanging around with Darcy for a couple of years off and on, learning bits and pieces here and there. I have a 3D printer that I'd like to get into design for Fusion 360. And I just sort of hanging out here to find out about CNC and modeling for that. So we'll see where we go.
Thank you, Andrew. How about Olaf?
Hi there, my name's Olaf. I guess I sort of exist next to the world of makers. I've visited once in a while. I can say I have about a 1/2 CNC machine I started a few years ago and never took it to completion because I realized I'm not actually a woodworker and I have no sense of precision. So I'm hoping that this one will get me to the point where I can play around with some of the ideas that are bouncing around in my head. Nothing big, just making small things and enjoying that world. No, actually, this is a perfect timing for me because it's kind of gotten on my radar, and then this announcement showed up, and I've enjoyed the kindness and expertise of this group over the past years, and I hope to steal some more kindness and expertise from them.
Thanks, Olaf. How about Lakota? I see you floating there.
Hello, I'm Lakota. I help with some of the aspects and organization of the Hack 613 group. I do a lot of general making with the laser cutter and 3D printing, CNC stuff. CNC I'm getting involved with and learning about. I also enjoy art and robotics and electronics.
Thank you. So, well, let's start this with debate that's happening. And so I'm advocating that these machines are super cute and worth getting for a lot of people. That doesn't mean it's for everybody. But I'll tell you why I picked this machine. So I've had quite a few machines over the ages for different purposes. And this one, what I'm finding is it has a lot of use for the amount of money. And so you're not in for very much risk. And you're going to have something up and running, and you'll learn all about CNC. And then eventually, my idea is you'll eventually make another purchase maybe in the future. Some people need a bigger machine, some don't. And so I'm arguing that even if you do need a bigger machine, why not buy your second machine first? Your extra sort of off to the side machine that's like your backup. So that's my argument. Ray brings up a very fine argument. Well, the spindles are pretty underpowered and you're not going to be removing much material. And maybe some people might want to proceed to a more expensive machine right away. And maybe for just like another 100, you could get something a little bit more substantial. And I don't think there's anything bad about that argument. That's why I think we have to have this debate. Yeah, that's basically the deal. But I argue that it's a slippery slope. But hey, I think everyone's their own person.
I think you can probably get what you want without going an extra $100. I think it's just a matter of shopping around and finding the deal. And take your time.
But there's always these trade-offs. I mean, like probably a lot of other people on here.
Sometimes not.
Yeah, I've looked at probably 60 different machines in the last couple of days, and they're either vague and they don't really tell you the wattage of the spindle, which I had to go back and look at all the ones I'd looked at before after Ray's comment on there, and saying, oh yeah, it is really 60 watts, but then a lot of the time they don't even tell you, but it looks the same as the 60-watt machine, so I assume it is. But they don't really say. I did see there was a huge difference in the controller boards. Some of them look very much more professional than others. They've got fans on them and heat sinks, and they look to be more a professionally done construction, where other ones look like they're, you can see it's an Arduino Nano that they've just piggybacked on the card and things. Does that make any difference? I have no idea. But apart from that, it's they're more similar than different. But I could not figure out how to figure out which machines might have a more powerful spindle.
So let me offer some commentary on this, because I haven't gone that. I bought one machine from China. It's a 6040. That was straight off. Mixed opinions on it. It has a lot of really good features. But the first small machine I made myself. Now, all of the problems you're talking about right now, spindle wattage and stuff, as long as you can mount a traditional brushed spindle, you can go and buy another one for anywhere. If it's just not a brushless DC motor, they're about $35. Yeah. If you want to go pimp it out, you can spend $120 and get a brushless DC, very little speed control, silent, powerful, no run out. That's a good deal. The electronics, that thing, sorry, I'm going to turn off my backdrop because it screws with the imaging. That little brick, which is a reasonably solid machine, I use these on my big machines, they're about $8. So, when you buy one of these small machines and you say, well, it has a shitty little Arduino with some shitty little Palulu drivers, and I'm kind of wondering and whatever. The joy is, I'm not saying, all I'm saying is you can upgrade appropriately. Like, this isn't a one-time purchase. You're going to learn, spindles will wear out, things will wear out, you'll break bits, you're going to burn out drivers. These are realities, but none of it's particularly expensive, like if you get into it. And having the ability to do that at a low price point is actually kind of cool, rather than, dropping $4,000 on a big machine, or even, you can get one for probably about $2,000 for a decent size 6040 with all the junk in delivered. But that's a far cry from this $300 price point. They're not the same machine, but as I've discovered, I teach a lot of kids how to use 3D printing and how to design is the issue. Getting through the design process and being able to design things takes way more time and energy than running these machines. These machines are awesome. They will reproduce stuff ad nauseum. Even at slow feed rates, they will still cut materials and beautifully reproduce them. So I think that's the other side of the value. So
what's the difference? Like, can you quantify that? I mean, so, something with a low power spindle, you'd have to, have less feed rate and so on. Are you talking about a job that would, is now going to take 8 hours to
No.
to run instead of 30 minutes or something? Or
no, pieces like this are on the order of 5 minutes. That's a half-inch thick piece of HDPE. Now, when I say feed rates, you cannot run, the motor drivers, the NEMA motors or NEMA 17s on that size of machine. You can't run the machine literally as fast as, it's not all spindle. There's also the little motors that move the head around. It will be slower, but there's a limit to that because we're using 1/8 inch bits. You got to remember, this is not metalworking. Yeah. First of all, erase metalworking from the equation. We're not metalworking. If you want to metalwork, you're going to be taking off like 0.1 millimeters per layer, and you're going to go around and around, and it's going to be long. But if you're cutting wood or plastic, your feed rates are inherently relatively slow because the bit is only 1/8 of an inch, and you don't want to overfeed it with a bunch of plastic or wood chips in it. The difference, I would say, is with a big, powerful spindle like Darcy has in the corner there, that's a 1.5 kilowatt spindle. You can plunge that through half-inch material and have the bit go straight down and then carve around the periphery, and it's done.
Yeah.
You can do the same thing on one of these small machines, but you might only go 2 millimeters at a time. So instead of cutting it in one cut, you're going to cut it 2 millimeters into 12 millimeters. You're going to take 6 cuts. So it's going to be 6 times slower to go around. Go for it, Ray.
But another problem with shallow cuts is the tip of your bits get dull, and the rest of the bit is still sharp.
Yeah.
So if you have more power, you can take a deeper cut.
Yeah.
And you can end up cutting a lot more material. And if your bit is a $10 bit, and you dull 5 of those on the first 1 millimeter of it,
they're wasted.
then you're out $50 worth of consumables. Right. That maybe if you paid that on the front end with a bigger powered motor, you wouldn't have to worry about. It has a lot to do with the kind of cutting that you're interested in doing. So I call that the field of dreams. When you dream of what your CNC is going to do, what is that dream? And then you kind of, judge whether or not, if you're just going to do etching, that's like 1 millimeter deep, and you're not going to go further than that because a lot of people that just do engraving, then probably like the 60 watts seems pretty light to me, really, even then. Yeah. But
just a quick comment. It took me about a year before I could make a cutter last a week before I smashed it into something.
So you're likely to snap them off rather than wear them. Or...
In the front, in the beginning, you'll break a few cutters. Yeah. It depends how much of a rush you are. Today, I haven't broken a cutter in ages, but I broke 2 of them today. Brand new cutters. Just put them on.
I was surprised that we get dull so fast if you're cutting into soft material like wood and plastic. Are they just high-speed steel, or
some wood's full of dirt, and they're different, all different kinds of cutters in your feeds and the speeds. A quality tool path is going to help. Like if you're ramping when you're cutting and all, it's like plunging is really hard on cutters. It brings the temperature up very high. Right. So like now when I'm cutting, I've learned that never just plunge in, never move the cutter straight down. Always move the cutter that way going in. It's called ramping. And this stuff just keeps the temperature down. Everything is better quality,
I've noticed that Fusion generates, like we've been using Sketchicam for a lot of the stuff. Fusion generates wonderful paths. They're kind of wonky when I look at them, but they sort of trapezoidally, they're coming in on circles and they're cutting on the edge because mill bits cut on the edge. They don't cut on the bottom. They're not drills. They're not, So now, all of that said, I don't disagree with Ray. I loved our 350 watt to 500. Well, China calls them 500 watt motors. They're 350 watts. Those are awesome motors. That's the one we used on that one that we had at the communal one that Darcy put up.
Great.
That thing was a brick shit house. It is just so it was very inexpensive and it ran like a top, and you really didn't slow down. You do not need a 1.5 kilowatt spindle. You'll want one, but you don't need one. So you can drool over it, but you know, so the bare bones is, you know, the traditional brushed. They'll be a little noisy, but in the 350 to 500 watt region, and that will give you all sorts of cutting opportunity, and you won't have any problems with those.
And the bits, are they just high speed steel, or are they carbide, or?
I use carbide,
Yeah.
but you can get high speed steel. I think Darcy, you're using carbide, aren't you? Mostly. Yeah.
Mainly.
Yeah. They last longer.
I've got a lot of plastics myself, and a lot of wood too.
Yeah.
But consider if with a 300 watt spindle you can cut 4 or 5 millimeters deep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then that's going to be 5 times more cost effective on bits, and they do doll up. And if you go from a 300 to a 500, and you can do the full length of the flute, then you know, this is going to stop the bleeding. Again, it depends on what you're interested in. If you're interested in 3D curves on your piece, then you maybe want a little more horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing to look for is the clamp that's on the machine. If you get the cheap machine, make sure it's a 52 millimeter clamp, because that's the standard size.
Yes, thank you.
If you get the little machine, you can say, okay, I'm going to pay the 50 or $100 or the $120. I upgrade it to a 500. It cost me a little over $120. Because I took my 300 watt one apart and it didn't go back together because, well, I'm stupid. And so I said, well, I can get another 300 one for $50. But I wasn't happy with that because I wanted to use the full length of the flute. I realized that if I'm going to buy, you know, hundreds of dollars worth of bits, I want to get the maximum use out of them. And so that was a real consideration that I discovered. And I wanted to do, you know, I'm using a lot of flat stock that's 19 millimeters thick. So I want to cut as far through that as I can on the first cut, rather than, you know, do four or 5 different layers. So again, and the reason I want to do it in one plunge, it saves time, but mostly to save on bit costs. And that's just a bleed. And
these are mostly end mills that you guys are using for these? Are they?
They're 1/8 inch flat end mills.
If there's high speed steel, could you not just sharpen them and take the end off and shorten it a little bit? I
think there's some people that sharpen them. I want to learn how to do that, actually.
I'm planning on sharpening them, just to save.
I mean, carbide will be tough, but high speed steel, you should be able to sharpen them and take them, get a fresh edge there, and not have to throw them away.
Well, what would you suggest then? How to sharpen it?
Oh, well, that was half of my dad's business, was sharpening machine tools for the oil industry. Right. So, you know, if you had carbide, if you needed a carbide, you need a diamond bit to sharpen carbide. But it gets
stone, or a diamond stone, or a stone of some kind.
The hard part though is you need to keep it in balance, because you're spinning these things at high speed, right?
Yeah.
So you have to do it on a machine to get it. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to take more off one side than the other, and it's going to vibrate.
I was thinking of using a drill and a piece of emery cloth tensioned with a little bit of water, and then running the drill in reverse.
Oh yeah, you could. Or maybe you could even just do it on the spindle and bring it down onto an abrasive, and because there you have lots of control, right? And so spin it in the spindle and bring it down on top of an abrasive and put a fresh edge on it.
I want to sharpen the whole side of it.
Oh, you want to sharpen the edge? You want to sharpen the edge flutes? That'll be more difficult.
Actually, interestingly, you might be able to do the same thing against the stone. That is, run a path along a stone, doing exactly what you suggested for the face, but just do it along the edge. So
Yeah, but that's now I understand why you're saying doing it in reverse, right?
yeah,
Because
well, you turn your motor in spindle backwards, but yeah.
oh, the spindles are DC.
Yeah,
Well,
you can just
some of
reverse
them
them.
are. Yeah, you
Some
can
are,
reverse
some
them.
aren't. Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
are, some aren't. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That is an interesting idea. That might work.
Well, one other just about spindles. So there's another characteristic about spindles. It's called run out, and that's how much vibration you have. That is how true it is. And you won't know until you get it how true it is. But vibration is not your friend when you're using a 1/16 inch diameter bit or 1/8 inch. 1/8 not too bad. When you go to 1/16 or 1/32, vibration, 8 thou vibration will cause this thing to wonk back and forth, and that vibration will snap the carbide really, really easily. So the cheapest of the motors have the poorest bearings. The next size up are the sort of the 350 to 500 watt brushed ones. We've had good luck with them. They're generally rebuilt in China. They were run as servo motors or
Servos.
something else, and then they've rebuilt them and put the spindle on them and put new bearings on them, hopefully, or they repack the bearings or whatever. So they have a bit of run out. And then the next class up is the brushless DC motors, which are total 100% variable speed control. And the price difference goes from what, about $30 to $120.
But for the brushless ones, would not the controller also have to change?
Yeah, you get a controller with the brushed
okay.
one, or the brushless ones rather.
Yeah.
Do any of the 3018 class designs come with brushless motors, or are they all?
They're
you can
all
see,
Generally,
DC?
no.
no.
Yeah. Is that an upgrade path later on? Or
As
is
long-
it just
as long as
physically
you-
too heavy, maybe?
No, as long as you listen to Ray's suggestion of making sure that the diameter was what,
52 millimeters.
52 millimeters.
It has to be a 52 millimeter clamp.
As long as the clamp is
okay.
52 millimeters, then you can put a different motor into it. And that includes both brush and brushless.
Okay, so these, what are the 775? Typically, are they not necessarily 52 millimeter?
If they don't say, then you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of not said on these ads I do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 775 motor isn't specifically a size. Then it's more of a
Yeah,
class,
I mean,
suppose.
at 24 volts, it's a certain amount of power, but you just add more voltage, and you'll have more
Yeah.
power if you want.
Until you let the smoke out.
Yeah, exactly. It's if it can manage the temperature.
Yeah.
How long of a run are you doing? How much load are you putting on it? All those things are going to have impact.
Yeah.
A lot of these, they look like the parts are made out of HDPE. Could you not make a new clamp of your own?
It depends on how it's set up on the gantry. If the gantry is the clamp, then you're stuck.
Mm.
Yeah.
And most of them, it's one piece now.
Yeah.
So again, you got to get in and look at the picture, and then if they don't say in the literature, then the picture may be of a different machine than the one you're buying.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's not much confidence in some
I'll
of these
just
ads.
quickly do a share just for the fun value, because
Yep.
the discussion is, so there's what I said, and I'm debating that these machines are worth the money, and that's
Yep.
based on my set of experiences and my parameters. But Ray has a really good point, and I'm really glad we have a good group going here, because some people might get another machine that they'd be happier with, and why not consider? But check out this share here. This is when I was just looking for 3018 in AliExpress. This little guy came up, and it's just kind of like a little edge past the 3018, but it's another sweet spot maybe. I'm just looking for my share button here. Share that, and then share this. So this is one of the ones that came up. If you look at it, it's a very different construction. It still has the Acme same lead screw with the thing, but they've gone to a 200 watt. Okay, so it's Chinese watts. Okay, and you'll get more if you put more voltage. You'll probably get what you want, but it's an ER11. But just sort of the next step up from it, and someone might get some happiness out of something like this. So it's US 265s. You're adding a bit more on that. So that's one food for thought. Here's another, just one more thought. I feel that the 3018 is a sweet spot in that, you know, $200 to $300, and especially you buy the smaller form ones, you got something that's working. That's pretty good. But the other sweet spot is the 6040. Like that machine you're looking at on my CNC cam, that's a 6040. I paid $1,000 for that thing like 6 months ago. Like it was just $1,000. It's got like a big proper spindle. It's all controlled by the computer. It's got NEMA 23 motors. It's true as an arrow. It runs like a top. I'm so thrilled. And it was $1,000, but I could have got it for like about 800 if I'd have forgone the fourth axis. It's a 4-axis. It's not a 3-axis. It's a 4-axis. Had I forgone the fourth axis, I'd have been in for $800 on this thing. That's another sweet spot. I would debate that. Now, this is just my way of thinking. That's the next good stop. Of course, you can sort of marginally keep adding and adding and adding. But I think that there's a couple of sweet spots along the way. It's just based on the way the industry is kind of constructed. Like when you buy material, it comes in certain lengths, parts are certain sizes, and it favors certain machine sizes unless you're building the whole thing from scratch. But that's my input on that front. And Ray is right. I'm so glad that he came, because you guys might just listen to me 100%, which will mostly keep you out of most troubles. But there's different things. Different people value different things.
Well, there's I think there's one consideration is what size you get, but also what's important to know is someone who has a 6090.
Well, it's important to know.
Equally as important as getting your own.
Like Doug's a good guy to know.
Yeah. That one you pointed out, Darcy, is really interesting. It is the next step up, it seems like. It's got a lot more aluminum on it than some of the others, and it does have the air-cooled spindle that looks like you could replace it with something that's more powerful.
Well, it has a lot to do with your field of dreams. What do you dream this is going to do? And that'll keep you motivated. If you buy something that's just going to frustrate you and say, "Oh, that's not it," then it's not. If you buy something that's cheap and you just end up disappointed, then that's not a good move. It has to do a lot with against how much space you have, how much money you have, but mostly your field of dreams. Because if it isn't a fun thing to use, then it's not a fun thing to use. Yeah. So it's on a case-by-case basis. You have to, have an idea of where you're going to go with it. Like I wanted to do 3D, and so I want that depth of plunge. But if I were just doing surface cutting, then that would be another issue.
Like circuit boards, for example, could it go? It could handle.
This will be a piece of cake for
that's
because all these things say absolutely cannot cut metal. I mean, all of these listings say they can't cut metal, and of course, it's copper that you're dealing with there. So I assume they're talking about steel.
It's a negligible amount of copper. You're really only cutting the substrate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially Chinese boards, it's not a lot of copper.
No.
Part of that might be expectation setting as well.
Yeah,
and they have it, and they can do, for things like if you're putting down a quad flat pack or something like that, could they mill the pads for that accurately enough?
I would think yes, but the thing is, I haven't done it. Okay, so Doug and I
bet you Doug has.
are talking about this.
I haven't, because I always
Doug does the fab. He does the China.
I just go to China.
But Doug and I are going to do some jam sessions in the next while, and we're going to put down some quad flat packs with similar machines to this.
For the very reason that you're talking about, because the machine is. I've never cut a PCB like this. The machine, that little machine, a 3018, shouldn't have any problem whatsoever. There will be no speed issues, no power issues. That's a dead simple job, because it's really an engraving machine at that level.
Yeah,
it'll do lighting,
which is why you have such a small depth on the Z-axis, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the one it was 1.8 inches, which is a pretty good plunge.
Yeah,
for that little machine.
It's 6 centimeters, I think. 6 centimeters. Mine has 6 centimeters space between the bottom of the truck and the bed.
You lose some though to the ER11 collet though, right? If you really want to get it all.
You just choke the motor up, and
Yeah.
you know you're going to lose some to your fixturing and everything like that. So you know, yeah, but that distance is a notable distance. It's 6 centimeters on my machine. That could vary. These machines all come from different makers. You know, it's not like a brand or anything. It's Chinese stuff.
So you raised another interesting point that the lower the gantry is to the bed, the more rigid your machine. That is, there's less vibration in the Z axis because you're moving that thing around, and the lower it is, the more rigid it is. So in a lot of ways, these small machines have one feature that big machines just have a hard time competing with for their cost. They're very rigid because they're small. The moments of inertia are small. If you build a big machine like a 4x8 machine, you have to put a ton of steel and rigid and welded webs and all sorts of stuff. And you're like, this, as Darcy says, is a real sweet spot. Those small machines are in a lot of ways better for precision work at that scale. As long as you don't want something big, these are great. You want to make jewelry? This is perfect for making jewelry.
My big application, I think, is going to be circuit boards. But.
Well, stay tuned. We will keep you posted on our progress because that is on our list.
Then you don't really need the bigger spindle.
No, not even. Yeah.
Well, it keeps it cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
but I mean, the one thing we talked about last Sunday, I guess it was for circuit boards was being able to probe the Z axis because the boards aren't perfectly flat. So I noticed some of them have the option for the Z probe and some of them don't.
The 3018s, they may or may not advertise it, but they kind of all have different embodiments of the same board. They all look like different little boards, but that's just different versions. So that board has been refactored like 5 times since these machines have come out. It's a fairly recent phenomena. But they all have outlets for the and they all run the same software. They run Verbal, the firmware, and they pretty well all have all the pins out that you need to do.
So just that they might not be showing it on the listing, or because
they don't even know what they're selling half the time.
Yeah.
So
you just plug on.
Gerbil supports a probe pin. So whether their controller does or not, I mean, Darcy has those shield. Like, I'm not saying get rid of the other one, but Gerbil should support it straight out. All they need is a pad to solder to. But an Arduino Uno with a shield on top of it does basically the same thing. You can load Gerbil on there and it will run the same way. And you can bring an extra wire out to a probe.
Okay.
They will have, even if they don't have probes per se, you can typically repurpose any of the end stop limits as probes because it's not all that smart, right?
Okay.
Well, from a software point of view, what happens is the head comes down, a switch closes, and that's an event that triggers Gerbil to stop doing whatever it was doing. You now know, like when it comes down, it contacts the surface, you know you touched, it stops. You now have a 0. So you've done your probe through other zeroing mechanisms. So yeah.
So even if it doesn't seem to have it, and it probably does from the sounds of what Darcy's saying, it probably does have it.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
I'm no expert on anything, but I think they're all the same. Even though all the boards look different, but they're just different. Same board, been refactored a few times, and the project for those boards, I believe, is called Woodpecker.
Okay.
And what's specific about these boards is they're a Gerbil. They run Gerbil firmware. They're an Arduino, and they run Gerbil. And then it's a breakout. It's just got a collection of other things. The Woodpecker also includes a little sideboard that you can plug on, and you can run your SD card there and eliminate. It becomes headless. You run it like a 3D printer. I've got one of those actually, and I found it perfectly useless, frankly. But some people might find it okay, because for me, you got this little screen, you got these two little several buttons, and you're going around the little menu to find the file to run. And then when you want to home your machine, usually you're up on a nice computer screen, you got your mouse and your keyboard, you can like fly the thing around and get it all zero, and hit the 0 buttons and hit go. But you're on this little and it's just not that cool. Maybe Octoprint or something can get rid of this problem, that's something maybe someone could explore someday. But anyway, in summary, I think they're all the same. Like,
Okay.
despite what they say, like they all come with that 775 motor. They all, there's a few options like ER11 or not. That's one option to look out for when you buy these. You want that. You want a permanently installed ER11. And the other one is there's the Pro version and the not Pro. I don't think there's much difference. I don't know. Mine are the non-Pro ones. I've got two of them.
I don't think
Very perfectly happy with both machines. But as Ray was saying, hey, maybe you want more power. Maybe what do I want to do? You know, where am I going in life? My only defense against what Ray is saying is that this is just a machine to get going. It takes a while to get going at CNC. You got to learn the software tool chain, all the CAD, CAM, and you know, and so you can have a machine like this. You're only out for, you know, going out for dinner a few times, you know, and you got yourself this cute little machine. Then you can work through all the details of CNC without breaking the bank. And then again, like there's limitations. You're not building engine blocks. You're not putting up shelving in your home or anything like that. It's very limited, low power, safe machine overall. But Ray is right, though. So I'm arguing against Ray, but I'm saying that he's right because he is.
As long as you have the 52 millimeter clamp, then you can just swap out a larger motor. And
easy.
Yeah.
So just wait. And basically, if you get to the point where you either really need it or the existing one that came with it dies and it's time to replace it, then you can decide, am I going to get one of the same or are you going to get one that's a little bigger?
Am I going to pay $50 or $100 for you know?
I bought an extra of those 755 or 775 motors. It was $15. I got it. So if I fry one of them, I stall it and burn it out, or I don't even know what'll break. It might be the controller board that goes when you stall it. I don't really know where it breaks. But if that happens to me, I got the board and I got the motor. I can just swap and keep going. If I need more power, I got other machines. So I'm I'm somewhere, but I'm not quite pro, but I'm kind of more in the hobby space, but I'm a little bit extreme enthusiast. So I got another machine to run different jobs on.
Right. If it did stall, is there no current limiting on the driver to?
Oh, I'm sure there is. I don't know. I don't know. I've stalled mine. Nothing broke yet. I didn't notice.
They're PWM'd. So I'm not sure they.
Oh, they may not realize.
They may not realize it. It's not like they have current sense on the bottom end. They just PWM it on a DC motor. So stalling.
So even though they're just a brushed DC motor, they PWM it to get different
velocities,
different head speeds.
Yeah, because the voltage changes.
Right.
Yeah.
I bought an extra spindle for fun. I'll go just continue discussion. I'll get my other spindle that I bought.
That'd be another vote for the brushless DC, I guess, where you'd have much better.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, well, that's a torque issue related to, you know, you want to run them at high speed, but a brushless motor actually has sensors that allow you to run them slower and still maintain torque. But it still falls off very rapidly. They're different classes of problems. That's the difficulty, you know.
Yeah. Well, because carbide needs much higher speed generally to get a clean cut, right? And but if you're running high speed steel, you get a better finish at lower speed. But if you lose all your torque because you're running it slower, then you've got a bad trade-off there.
But in fact, we pretty much run all of these things maxed out. We rarely turn the speed down.
Oh, they're running flat out all the time anyway?
Usually. Yeah, there you go. Those are.
So this is the stock motor for a 3018, $15 on eBay to get a new one. You'll do. I saw them cheaper once. I should have bought one, but I wound up paying $15. Or maybe this is the cheap one. I can't remember. This is a $200 brushless Ooga Booga Extreme motor. And these are more because they don't make these very much. Like they don't make these a lot. Like the 400 or 500 ones, they make those things like hotcakes. This is a rare size. Rarely do you need
How
any
many
kind of
how many
power.
wires going into the $200 motor?
Three, I suspect, plus the encoder,
Oh.
so 6.
Yeah, so you got your 3 phases and then your encoder and power for the encoder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's the 3 phases, and then so I'm counting 3 for that. Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, so there's separate ground and power then for each,
Yeah.
the encoder. And
It looks like, well, the encoder has ground and power, and then all the outputs,
Yeah.
and then there's the 3 phases of the motor. I'm assuming it's, I don't know, I'm guessing. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's a 3-phase.
I'm not a electronics engineer or anything like that. And it comes with this comes with this, and then a brick power supply. And this thing is heavy, I'll tell you. This is like, ooh, I can run around town with this thing. But this is heavy.
Yeah.
And then so this comes with a brick power supply as well. So I would put one on a 3018 and it'll have no run out and everything. This thing will be tons of juice for a small machine like that. It's just that to me, it's a portable, having fun going around town with it and stuff. So I don't want to weigh it down. I would rather put something heavy like this on a more permanent machine. Now that's for me, but you guys, maybe it's more sensible to start with not your kind of fun, airy machine. Maybe you want to start with something more serious.
Seems like
Like
overkill for a circuit board.
Yeah.
Oh, this totally.
Yeah.
Totally. This will cut circuit boards, no problem.
And when he says cuts them, he means cut them. Zoom, 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 zoom. Yeah, cutter.
Fiberglass dust flying everywhere.
Oh yeah,
This
toxic waste.
With this readout of RPM and everything, so you can put that on your outfit, and then you'll be all fancy. You'll look at RPM while the thing is going. And then it'll be.
Yeah.
You'll have more friends. You get more party invites, and all that.
Did any of these machines have safety issues? I mean, apart from the laser, which we talked about last time around, which I was interested and now I'm not interested in it at all from the danger point of view. But just the device. I mean, they're running at high speed, and I guess if it's brushed, it makes enough noise that people would know to stay away.
Yes.
That's a laser for one of these machines right there.
Yeah.
It's still in the box, and it's going to stay there because I'm afraid of it.
Just going back to that, all of these machines, they're relatively safe, but they're power tools.
Yeah.
So you've got a spinning bit. When you get a brushless motor, they run really quiet. You wouldn't even notice them. They can be running. You can turn down the speed on a brushed motor, and they don't sound like they're running, but you can't see that they're running. So you cannot, any more than you'd leave a table saw running and you'd walk away from it. You cannot walk away from these things. You have to realize that it's a power tool. You put your finger in it, it looks like a needle, but it'll cut your finger.
Yeah.
Not cut your finger. It will cut your finger off. If it will cut a piece of wood, it will certainly cut through bone and finger.
Right.
So,
it's worse than a power tool because it doesn't stop when you take your finger off the trigger.
Yeah.
The safety guys that started off his presentation, I don't know if you remember that, your CNC is trying to kill you.
Yes.
So that's how you approach it, because it's going to keep moving. If you get your arm caught, it doesn't stop. It doesn't have a brain. So that red safety button is important, or being close to where you can pull the plug out is important.
Yeah.
But
what about things like if it snaps one of the end mills off and stuff, could that come flying out at high speed at you? Or
I've snapped, and I'm not exaggerating, and I actually have a bin of CNC broken cutters that I'm going to be showing off one day. I've had CNC for like a decade. I must have snapped, I don't know what the number is, like 500 cutters. Okay, so I'm an expert on snapping things. Okay, it never throws the cutter. If anything, it'll throw your workpiece. It'll throw that. I've never seen anything throw a cutter. If anything, the cutter that's broken is in your workpiece.
Yeah.
And it's a very tiny thing. I wouldn't want it in the eye, but it seems just in the mechanical situation, it just winds up somewhere around where it broke off. So what can happen is you could cut a little piece out, and maybe you're cutting 20 of these little pieces, and it cuts one out. And one of them maybe has a hole in the middle, and that thing it lifts
Grabs it.
out, and that little guy goes for something goes wrong there. That's riding, and then that little guy is on there spinning like crazy, and that'll either break and go flying, or it'll come off the end
like a
that'll
frisbee
fly.
at velocity.
Yeah, that
So-
can give you a little bruise on your belly button.
Yeah, you got to wear glasses. You have to
Okay.
you have to be wearing safety glasses when you're using it, for the reason of broken bit. I agree with Darcy. I was surprised. I'm always concerned that those little carbide things are going to go flying like crazy. They don't seem to. They seem to stay put. But the
Yeah.
parts, not so much. I've had lots of little things fly around.
In fact, when
The
you break a
smaller, the
cutter,
worse.
here's what's going to happen 95% of the time when you break a cutter. The cutter is going to be right in the track where it was cutting. And then you're going to forget to take it out. And the next cutter that you put on your machine, that
Oh,
goes
it's going
by
to run
there,
right in
it's going to
there.
hit that thing. It's going to break. I did that today. Okay. After 10 years or 9 years, I don't even know how long. So anyway, yeah, there is safety issues for sure. I feel that the 3018s, you're sub Dremel. You know, with a Dremel, it's free. You can poke yourself with it. It's flying around. I've got a friend who wound up in a cast once because when I was a teenager, I had a Dremel. I was like, hey, look at that, I got a Dremel. I was cutting off everything. He got the Dremel. In those days, the Dremel used to come with like a big razor saw, like a rotary razor saw. I don't know if you remember that thing, but they got rid of it because I think this happened. So right away, he takes a piece of hardwood like this. He puts the razor saw. It catches. It goes across his arm like that. Holy Moses.
Yeah.
These things are nowhere as dangerous as a free cutter like that. So I like to compare like these small CNCs to like a Dremel in a way. If you can, like that is what it is, except the Dremel, it doesn't work nicely on these machines because they make a little bit more noise because there's a bit of run out, and they don't do good work because they have run out because it's a different problem, a handheld tool.
Yeah.
So not to in any way trivialize it, but when you go up in size, like this other motor that's over here, that thing is a whole other world of dangerous. Okay. But even the little 60 watt, the 7075, that little motor there, I once was doing the probing thing, right? I was trying to do probing. So I put an alligator clip on the cutter so that I could close the connection and do the probing. And then I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I can't believe how good this works. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to run the job. I go and hit the go button that left the thing on there. So what does it do? It goes around in there. It rolls in the wire. It rips everything off the board that I just spent an hour soldering and making it all really pretty with shrink wrap and everything. And then and then the other alligator clip at the other end was flying around like at 100 miles an hour. And I swear to God, it hit me in the back of the knuckles like 5 times in 1 second. It was the most pain I ever had in my whole life. I couldn't believe how much it hurt. So that's 60 watts is enough, you know. A human, like your regular output for a human is 60 or 70 watts.
Yeah.
You know, like if you had to work 12-hour shift, you can put out.
Yeah.
That's your output. You know, your continuous output as a human.
Well, I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and she likes to play with the 3D printer, making little Pikachus and toys and things like that. And so I think she's not going to be playing with the CNC from the sounds of it, not until she's a little older.
It's a little more dangerous than a power drill, and it's less dangerous than a handheld rotor.
Yeah.
That said, you can also put a box over it. Not a cardboard box, but like a plastic box, or shield it so that fingers aren't in there. So when you run it, which also has an advantage of keeping the dust to a dull roar too, if you want to do that.
Well, part of the danger isn't the power tool; it's the gantries moving, and you getting your finger in between 2 pieces of, like the table moving over to the side, and that's where you end up with little broken fingers and stuff.
Yeah, you're not supposed
Does it
to
really have
put your
enough
hands in there.
force on the gantry to?
Depends on which NEMA you have.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So the ones we had set up at the makerspace when I was first learning, the job was going out of control. It was rolling towards one side. The spindle it wasn't running was an air cut, and I thought, oh, I'll just stop it. You can't stop it. I couldn't stop it. You'd have to move the whole friggin' machine. Like, you cannot stop the lead screw from doing what it's doing. That's what the red button's for.
With a NEMA 23 motor,
with a NEMA 23, you can't stop it. Even with a NEMA 17, depending on how big it is, like
It'll break your finger.
Yeah,
Really?
imagine.
I would have
imagine,
thought you could stall it out just by grabbing it.
no, but imagine
way.
yourself in a C clamp, right? You
Yeah.
put your finger in a C clamp.
Yeah.
It does not take a lot of twist before all of a sudden you just crushed yourself.
Yeah.
That's the problem. But you're not supposed to be put. You gotta. What did we call those things for the model airplanes when you do the rubber chicken thing there, Darcy?
Chicken stick.
Chicken stick. Yeah, you have a wooden chicken stick to hold
Okay.
things down, or you do not put your hand in there, and you pay attention. Just like a
Well, it's
table
like on
saw.
big milling machines too. I mean,
Yeah.
are even more dangerous because you
Oh,
know,
these
they could rip your arm off. But
Yeah.
but there you sort of that it's a big dangerous machine, and you've got lots of very sharp metal flying around at high speed. Here, it kind of looks like a toy, right?
It does.
I guess there's a few, like I'm kind of listening to this safety, and so I'm thinking there's the safety of view, and that's really just situational awareness. Keep your fingers out of it. Don't, under any circumstances, be tempted to get a chicken stick. For sure, I'd use that. Then there's the passersby who are more danger by a brushless because they're a little more unaware of it than screaming away.
Yeah.
And then I have cats. So to me, that means I keep this thing in a room with the door locked closed.
Yeah.
Because they're not the brightest of animals.
Yeah, they'll paw it. They'll paw it for sure.
But I wouldn't. I think caution, a little bit of prudence. So, if you're reasonable about it, it's no worse than a Dremel.
Mm-hmm.
Except it's kind of automated. Like with a Dremel, you're holding it, which is problematic. It's moving on its own, but it's not worse.
Yeah.
You just
Well, I'm glad I asked because I would not have thought of the crush danger. And that's certainly something I could see happening easily with kids.
Oh yeah.
So not that this conversation isn't cool, because it absolutely is, and not to break it up. But what about now? I know David. He's gone and done some research. He missed the first installment of this meetup last Sunday. He's gone and he found a machine to look at. I don't know if Lakota has a machine that she's picked out.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say we have a look at those in light of what we've been talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Who's first? Go ahead. Feel free to share your screen.
Lakota is first.
Let's see if I
She gets that a lot.
Oh, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, it's weird. I always get that lately, but I haven't done that. Let me just poke around.
It's on by default now because of people Zoom bombing.
Yeah. They changed it.
There. Oops, did I fix it? Yeah, I just changed it from one participant at a time to multiple participants, and now I think it works. Last time that happened.
There we go. I see it. Let me see if I can scroll back up. It's a little bit weird with the sidebar on the side. So I saw this one on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And now Darcy, you mentioned that the offline control isn't really beneficial.
That's what I think, but everyone's their own person, right?
Right.
Didn't work, didn't do anything for me. I found it useless.
Yeah, it's only about like $30 more, so I'm debating whether or not to get it.
Oh, you got a good price.
I'll tell you what, if you don't get it, you can borrow mine.
Oh, okay.
and then you can buy it.
That's a
You
deal.
just buy it separate later, right?
Sounds good. But yeah, I saw this one. It looks like it comes with 10 pieces, an ER11.
Yeah.
I think it might be a good one to get.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch that I looked at that are very, very similar to this. They're almost identical, it looks like.
Let's have a look at the clamp for the motor.
Let me see.
Just zoom over the picture, yeah. Yeah, see, that's attached.
It's 3D printed. Actually, I think I don't know if it's injection molded from a 3D printed, built mold, or if it's 3D printed. I don't know. But they all have that.
You can just email the seller and ask them what the diameter of the motor is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If it's standard or not. That's a good price though.
Diameter of the motor. Sorry, just writing something down.
And that's pretty much what I was going to show you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I must have looked at 20 of these that all look the same with the plastic 45 in the corner.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's his.
Well, there's a pro one that doesn't have all that. You know, like I think that's what you're saying here.
I think
Oh, no,
that's
this
claimed
isn't
to
the
be
Pro, no, this
injection
is-
molded instead of
Yeah.
3D printed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's their claim, but I think they're all injection molded.
Yeah.
To make so many of these things.
Mhm.
So I basically just contact the seller and ask about the diameter of the motor, right?
Yeah, the
Oh,
clamp.
it's generic. Just look up the 775 motor. You know, like it's generic. So here,
Is it 52 millimeters?
I think it's smaller.
Oh, okay.
Well,
It's it seems to be 40. It's 2, I think.
I'm just going on eBay and I'll just Google the motor. Is it 775? Yeah, 775 motor. So I just Google a motor by itself, and then I'll probably get specs on the motor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the 775s I see when I do a search are all 42 millimeter in
There
diameter.
you go. That sounds right. 42 sounds
Now,
right.
yeah,
So when I bought
others,
that
I don't know, but
200, when I bought that, I think it was a 250 or 200 spindle, whatever it is. I made sure that it was the same diameter as the 775. So that's obviously there's a few motors that come in that size, obviously. I would debate that if you want to start upgrading, you might consider the next machine up from this. But I don't want to make it too complicated.
Do you mean upgrading in terms of size or?
Yeah, like if you feel that, oh, the motor needs to be upgraded right away, then maybe just start off there, you know. But the difficulty is that it just goes on, and eventually you're building an engine block with a $70,000 machine.
Right.
Or actually, a $70,000 machine won't build an engine block. Engine blocks start at $250,000. You know.
so we'll all get together on it.
Yeah.
Should I stop the share?
That's up to you. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to show yours, David? See what the differences are? Like,
I'm good.
hers
I'm
was
good.
260. Okay, fine.
No, I'm good. That's pretty much what I was going to share.
Yours was about 260. You sent me the link earlier. I looked over quickly. I can't remember how much it was.
No, I changed it. I started looking at stuff on Amazon, and that was one exact same model I looked at.
Yeah.
So as I'm looking at them, I kind of see 3 separate designs of a 3018. There's the one that Darcy mentioned you have, which is extruded aluminum gantry support. And then the next one up, if you believe it's the next generation, has an acrylic gantry support, and acrylic back and front with thicker or taller extruded on the front to back part of the box in the bottom. And then the one you just pointed out recently, which has just changed my life around, seems to be like the next level up. And a quick way to eyeball it. So the bottom level one has got sort of exposed ends to the extruded aluminum. The next one has got 2 bolts that go in the front, and then the next one up has got 4 bolts in the front. And the reason that one really caught my eye is that it's definitely a 52-inch motor. It's a brushed air-cooled DC motor. But what speaks to me is I have a brushless 52 millimeter spindle that I have from before that I can put in as a replacement down the road. So that one, in my specific situation, comes ahead, and it does look to be like it's got square. Looks like square extruded aluminum as opposed to rectangular on the bottom of the box, and it has a jog knob in the front as well, which would be a nice thing.
Is it this one?
Yes, with the 4 bolts in the bottom in the front.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how much? That's 178.
US.
So, yeah,
That's
and
the
then there's
range,
shipping
right?
likely as well. Yeah. So without
So there's with
laser
and
and
without
without
laser?
offline.
I think this is it here.
Yeah,
That's
and then you
not
choose
bad.
without offline below that.
Oh, without it?
Yeah, and to give us a
Oh,
price of
look at that.
178.
Yeah, so they're charging for that.
Yeah.
So you go without it, and you're in for 178 US. What does
Yeah.
that mean in Canadian dollars? Let me check here. USD in CAD. That's 250 Canadian.
Now with
That's
the
not
shipping
bad.
on that.
Jeez, I don't know. I don't see a problem with that. But then you have to look at the other issues of, you know, how do you feel about AliExpress? How do you feel about where the delivery dates are here, and all that? It says 7 to 16
$105
days.
shipping there.
That's pretty
How
good.
much?
I've never had a
100
problem
and
with AliExpress
160 or
at all.
whatever Canadian.
Shipping 105, yeah.
Yeah. I think what I find about AliExpress and maybe other places are similar is that the cost of the item may vary, but the cost of the item, including shipping, is all about the same. So they're either going to get you one
Yeah.
way or the other.
Yeah.
And then you can choose whichever shipper is least likely to ding you for a duty.
Yeah.
I don't mind paying duty. I just don't want to pay fees for handling duty to the shippers. That burns me.
I
Yeah,
still
that
don't.
looks-
I still don't think they should be collecting GST on stuff that you don't buy in Canada. But anyway,
It's protectionism.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Can
don't know.
you
That
see
looks
on
good
that
to me.
one-
Like that looks very cute, a little heavier. It looks like the same controller. My latest one came with this controller, with the fan and everything. Same pins, everything. Look, it's exactly the same. So, like when you use it through the software, it's absolutely identical.
Do those look like NEMA 17s to you?
Yeah.
By,
Oh yeah, they'll be NEMA 17. Yeah.
Are those ball screws for the moving the
No, they're lead screws.
lead screws?
And yeah, and I forgot the specs of them, but they're Acme. I think they're Acme, and they have like a brass spring-loaded backlash solution in these machines.
Oh, so
So,
is that done in software? So when they're
Nope.
moving, they change directions and then come back at it again from
No,
always
it's
the
done
same?
in hardware, and well, this one is looking different. So let me get. I saw a bottom of the machine here. Now the general 60 or 3018. Where I had a bottom view there a minute ago. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, I don't. It looks different to me, so I don't. I'm not familiar with this version of the machine. At face value, I think it looks like a much nicer version of the machine. Doesn't seem to be much more, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't see why I would buy the cheaper one if this one was available at the same price. Given that this is all what they say it is, there's no issues with the buyers or shipping or anything like that. Mind you, it is $100 shipping. Like if I was buying, can you see my second tab here? If I do eBay, like when I buy stuff, I go really on the cheap. So I would look for CNC 3018. When I get in here, you look for something like, oh, look, 169. Let's go here, check the shipping on it. 18, that's not bad, you see. Now that's way out there. Now I would work harder than this. But so, you know, this is a lot cheaper because I evaded the $100. Now this doesn't even look like ER11 on the picture, but however they show it down here. The last machine I bought, in the picture it didn't have it, but they did have it as a feature, and it came permanently installed, like it was heated on, and it expanded and then contracted on, and it has no run out. It's good. So to me, you know, then you're in. So there you've spent that, you know, 169 plus 20, and you got yourself a nice little toy that can keep you busy for like 1 billion hours of time, and you'll outgrow it. Of course, it's a very tiny machine, and then you'll eventually buy another one, maybe. But that's my angle on it. But I have absolutely no issues with Ray's angle, where it's like, gee, if I need more spindles, start looking at the next step up. A lot of people could go outright buy themselves like a 6040 and be perfectly happy with that. If you got $1,000 or $1,500 to go, you can get an entry-level 6040 that's pretty damn good, and be really happy with that.
This one doesn't look to be as rigid and as the previous one that we had on the screen there.
No, it isn't. I've got two of this form, and they're about as rigid as a 6040, maybe less. They're less, but they're surprisingly rigid because they're small.
Right. And when you're moving around and things like that, you're not concerned about warping them or bending them or whatever. They're not delicate.
No, they spring back. You could probably sit on this thing by accident and get away with it to some extent. They just bend it and muscle it back however it was. You'll both just twist all the bolts and stuff that are holding it together probably before you'll do any real harm to it, unless you really fall onto it.
So we're unlikely to break them apart from the
And
bits.
if you did, like, just order a part for $10 or something, whatever part you screwed up.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't broke too much on these. All I had one came dead on arrival. The controller board was no good, and when I plugged it in, it just smoked. Like it just literally went on fire when I started it up. And they just sent me another one. Plus, I ordered another so that I got that quicker. So I have a spare board, and
One thing I don't see on many of these is an emergency big red stop button. Is that something that's pretty straightforward to wire in?
I believe it is.
Design?
Yeah, I believe it is.
All right.
It's not quite as important on these machines. I mean, you can just unplug it. Like you just reach for where the controller is, just hit the cord off of it, and you're out the door right there.
No.
You had to.
Hit my head on the table as I bend down for it.
Yeah.
Just throw the 3018.
Yeah, just toss it. Just toss it.
The bigger ones need the button though. They're not so easily tossable.
Yeah. Isabel, did you want to show the machine that you picked out?
Yeah, sorry, it's not been my night, so I've been kind of coming in and out.
No problem.
Yeah, so I had looked at a few. I had seen the same one that Olaf shared, and I think a couple other people were looking at.
Yeah.
And then one that I had looked at a while back was a Janmitsu Sane Smart. Did you discuss that one already, or?
Not yet. But actually, I do have something to ask you, Isabel. Did I understand that you have an X card?
I have a Shapeoko.
Oh, sorry,
I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Yeah.
Can you tell me all about the experience of that machine? And, has it worked for you? And tell me all about, what the experience has been for you?
Yeah, it's been good so far. Unfortunately, like I got it, and then I was traveling for work for a little bit, and then after that, everything closed down, and it's just hard to get like wood and that kind of stuff right now. So for where I am, anyways, so I haven't been able to work with it as much as I want. But yeah, I have a really good first impression of the machine. It looks very solid and all that.
I didn't understand what was wrong. Like there was something up that you're not using the machine for some reason. I just didn't understand that part.
Yeah, I just don't have a lot of wood right now that I can use for experimenting, and it's not like I'm not too excited about going shopping for wood in the places where I normally go. So, I use whatever.
You know what I did? I went online to KJP, and I just filled up my shopping cart with all kinds of wood, and then hit the button, and it just showed up my door.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I ordered it in an afternoon, and it got there at 5 o'clock same day.
Okay. And was the shipping like crazy, or?
No, it was there. I paid an extra 25 shipping because I had one item in there that was special packaging. But the second time I ordered it, I didn't pay any shipping because I made sure it all fit into a box and didn't have anything like 80 feet long in there. And I got no shipping on the second order.
Okay. And where did you order from?
KJP.
KJP. Yeah.
It's a premium wood store. Yeah, it's designer wood.
Yeah. I'll look at that. Usually I go to Langevin Forêt. It's near Montreal. And it's like a lot of nice wood there, but also, if you kind of look around, you can find some nice wood, but inexpensive, like offcuts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't too
if
sure.
If you go to KJP, ask for Derek Bank. He's a really good wood turner, and
He makes the tops, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he's a good friend of mine. He's an artist. I completely love this guy. And
Yeah,
if
he's a nice guy.
if you walk into the store, he'll help you out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but I think right now online delivery sounds appealing. So I'll look into that.
What I'm getting is that the Shapeoko that you have is you're all right with it. And so are you looking to get like another machine to you know, to be maybe more portable? Like what is or you just, you know, because we're all doing this, it'll be more fun and you'll, you know, probably give you some more experience, you know.
Yeah, I
that
think
like,
it's a way to have like something small that I can experiment, like make mistakes with, you know, break bits on. It won't be as expensive, that kind of stuff. But I'm also very interested in etching PCB boards. So I do a lot of electronics and a lot of Arduino-based electronics. And sometimes it's
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if your Shapeoko can do everything that this machine can do.
Yeah, maybe.
Could that be possible?
Yeah, I have to look into it. Like, I guess I just have to try the PCB etching. It's a bit like I find because it's maybe I need to make like a different spoiler board for it or something, but it's just made for a different scale of thing, you know. So like just fastening things and all that, like for tiny things, it's not. But I think I could make that work.
Well, there's the trick with painter's tape and crazy glue. You put painter's and if you're not cutting through, which you wouldn't cut through on it, because that holds really, really well.
And then it does, and it doesn't like shift in the z-axis while you're
it holds really well.
Yeah.
They were
do you have a pictures of the machine, like, or a link to where you bought it so we can look at it?
Yeah, I bought it at Robot Shop. I don't know if you guys know that robotshop.ca.
I'll tell you why I'm just bringing this up, because it could be that you might be happier if you just do something to that machine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It might be a good machine. Like, what did you pay for it, for example?
I think it was around $900.
Yeah.
Okay. So it probably has more horsepower. I know that they don't have good rails. They have those wheelie rails that run along extruded aluminum. I don't know how good those are.
They've improved.
And I know the fixturing situation is tough on this too. What's that?
They improved the rail system slightly, I believe. The original rail system was a bit dodgy. They redid that at some point. So the really recent ones, but I understand. So they don't come with like the aluminum bed with all the extrusion in it, do they? On the bottom.
It's a work holding problem.
It's a fixturing problem.
At the Ottawa University Makerspace.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is a terrible piece of garbage. And it's because of the bed problem.
Yeah.
And I just got mad at it. And it had a router on. It was like screaming at 9,000 RPM trying to cut plastics. It was just like but in any case, that was very early in the Shapeoko game. They've since upped their game in so many ways. I have the suspicion that you might be able to tweak that machine and get the satisfaction that I'm trying to share with everybody right here.
Yeah, probably. And one thing that was also stopping me from using it a lot was just the dust management. So I had made like a nice red green type of enclosure with cardboard and lots of duct tape. But I think a week ago installed a dust boot on it.
Yep.
So I'll try it with that, and I'm hopeful that will keep things a little bit more under control. Yeah.
So you just brought up yet another subject, dust control. One of the but without going into the gory details, one cool thing about these small machines, you can step outside, not in the winter, but you can step outside on your deck and you can fire that thing up and let it dust away, and you don't care. And that's a huge difference.
And you don't have to listen to it.
And you don't have to listen to it, or
Neighbors do.
well, it's no worse than the lawnmower, so whatever.
Wait,
Yeah.
Can I put up my 3018 dust solution on the
Yes.
screen?
Yes, I love
Okay,
it.
I'm just looking for share again here. And that's this one over here.
Yeah.
So it's just basically cardboard. So I started off with, placing the cardboard, and then I just eventually have a front panel that comes off. You can see it's got little grooves on here. And then you just stick the front panel. And you can put something over the top, and the dust will float around inside there and eventually settle everywhere inside. And it really works. I've been using it for cutting up jewelry on CDs, and that normally just throws all these little bits of plastic. And there's about a 600 millimeter circle, like 60 centimeters or 2 feet circle, where little pieces are, flying out. Doug knows this. He cuts high density polyethylene. I'm cutting polycarbonate. The sort of the nature of the way the swarf comes out is very similar. And it all stays within a certain area, but it's a lot of shoveling up stuff. With this thing, it stays right in there. It absolutely contains everything. It's a thought. They are tiny, and it is another option that comes up because it's so tiny.
I copied his idea. I had some old, I think they were political signs or something that someone had left around. And I just cut up the coroplast, and that's what's sitting around the machine. It's awesome, like just simple joints, but they all take time to figure out what works best for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is heat an issue at all with an enclosure like that, or it's
no,
not at all?
No, because I don't close it entirely off. I close it mostly off. The top's still open on mine. Yeah,
it's
I just had this brainwave. If you'll entertain me just for one more second. My brainwave is this: I have 2 of these 3018s, and what if there's people that are on the edge? What if you borrowed the machine for a while?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I would be very happy to lend out one of my machines to anybody who's, wants to try it out. I don't care if you break it. I mean, I don't even care. Don't injure yourself.
Yeah.
But if somebody wants to borrow one,
generous.
you kind of say that, but frankly, I need storage space. Just kidding. Honestly.
So, Darcy, how much will you pay us to take this off your hands?
I concocted this whole thing just because it's reduced my storage requirements for all my stupid CNC machine. Just kidding. But I would be happy to lend out a machine, for let's say a week to someone. I'll tell you what, if there's just one person, you can have it for a month or whatever. And if there's 2 or 3 people that want it, well, maybe do it a month at a time, or let you guys trade it around however you want. You can have at it. Break it, I don't care. I'll order parts for it. I know it's very hard to break these things. As long as nobody injures themselves, I think I would be very happy to do that.
That's very generous, but I want one.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
So if I borrow yours, you're not going to get it back. That's the
fine. I'll buy another one.
He's got friends. He's got friends in low places. Watch out.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me show you the other one
that
I was looking at.
Half a year ago, I lent out a 6040 for a month. And do you know where it is? I can't get it back.
It's at Adrian's house.
No, Adrian bought a bigger one. It was a different one.
No, but honest to God, I can't get it back. I'm trying to get it back. Actually, it's just because they got busy otherwise. But yeah, whatever. I'm happy to lend stuff out because I got too much junk in.
Okay. Do you want me to show you? This is one I found on AliExpress that I was looking at. I mean, the other ones I was looking at, everybody else has already shared pretty much. At first, I was ready to push the button on the one Olaf had shared on the link, but anyway, let me show you this guy. There's that coming through?
Yes.
Okay. So this one caught my eye. It's on AliExpress, unfortunately, but it's not shipped by China Post or whatever. It's DHL. Amazing price. And, so $128 if you don't take the remote option, which Darcy doesn't like. And it seems to have everything else in it. I'm wondering if it would be stiffer because of the front and the back being a thicker piece rather than just that one.
It's a good question, and I don't know where this machine stands. They call it the Pro. Maybe it's better. It's definitely easy to assemble. That I'll already buy without even seeing it. But I'll tell you who bought one. Mordecai Brought has one. He's a Hack 613 person. He's been sparse that he has a life, you know. But in any case, just kidding. I'm kidding. But no, he bought one of these, and I'm surprised he didn't show up just to sort of join the. I don't know how much he's using it. But anyway, you could ask him, or maybe you know, I don't know how busy he is, but he would know. There's at least one of them in Ottawa.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a crazy good price.
Well, the shipping, of course, is you
How
got
much
to
is
take
the
into
shipping?
a little more than $100, I think, for shipping.
But if you order 2 of them, how much is the shipping?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, sometimes it's not. You're right. Sometimes it's not linear. You know, so there's quantity 2. Shipping goes up not by double. It's almost double, but not quite. 196 for shipping for 2 of them.
All right.
So that's a courier.
Yeah, but that's why DHL. So it's 7 to 16 days or whatever. And the best part is then Canada Post won't steal it from me, because more than half of my orders from LA Express end up at the house of my Canada Post delivery person. Seriously.
Yeah, no, I know.
They're not insured. They're not, you know, but it's clearly electronic parts, and they just never make it to the house.
Really?
Yeah. So, and we've had other stuff actually end up at his house. We've had Canada Post investigate. We've had to get stuff back.
And he still works?
And he still works there. Yes, because he's a contractor that works for one of these, you know, ones where they spun them off, and it's a separate company. So he's not actually a Canada Post employee.
My God.
Yeah. And he's still the guy that comes to her, you know, delivers our stuff. And I'm always wondering when anything doesn't show up, you know, what's going on. In fact, some of you guys may remember I once talked about putting a camera inside my mailbox to catch them.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Because my super box is right across the street from me, so it's close enough I could put a little tiny camera and Wi-Fi and still be able to reach the house and just record him actually not putting it in our box and keeping it instead.
You get enough hits on YouTube to pay for everything.
Yeah. Anyway, so I thought this one didn't look bad. It comes in a little cheaper than sort of the equivalent on Amazon. But the nice thing about Amazon is I've never had Amazon not take something back when it's broken or give a refund. Whereas, you know.
Yeah, it's the Canadian Tire mail order.
Yeah, exactly. Even though Canadian Tire is not as good as it used to be either. So.
Close.
Oh, I know. That's another problem.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was sort of the one I had at the top of my list, which, you know, sort of tips the scales at about, I don't know, what is that, 235? So
that's pretty damn good. That's the lowest yet.
Yeah. The controller's not as nice, I don't think. It doesn't have a fan, and it looks like a Nano on there, I think. But I mean, maybe it doesn't matter.
Need a fan anyway. You can always put a fan on it.
Yeah. Yeah, USB fan from the dollar store is like what, $3?
I'm not convinced you need a fan, but
yeah,
you know,
mine doesn't have a fan.
Well, mine, yeah, exactly. I got one here. I have one with a fan, one without a fan. So I'll get my CNC cam, and I'll show you the one without the fan. Look at it. It's probably the same board. That's probably why he's selling it on the cheap. It's not the latest version of the board, but that's. Can you see that yet?
Yep. Yep.
But does it look like the same board? I didn't. But that's one of my boards. Looks like
similar. Yeah.
3 Palulas at the top.
Yeah. I'll zoom in here a little bit. Yeah, I think it is. I think it is the same.
Oh, I've gotten them both like that. They're both like that right now because my spare board is that same one. But one of my machines came with the fan. That was one with a dead board. So I have the extra new board, which has the. I have the new board, but I haven't installed it yet because that one's working fine. So.
Okay. Anyway. So
where are we now?
Yeah.
Are we ahead or behind?
I don't know. Well, so far I've got the cheapest price, so I'm winning. So
Yeah. So
You're-
Dan wins for the cheapest, that's for sure. Mind you, you probably pay for it, nothing shows up, but it's probably his mailman. But so Isabel, so I just tabled this idea to Isabel that she might already have a machine that she may find
Yeah.
highly satisfactory. And I mean, we can still support, you in the same way. You don't have to buy one of these things. And just a thought. And then another thing that's come up is that I'm willing to lend a machine. Okay. So does anybody want to borrow one for a while? Like, I know Dan just says he wants his own because he wants to, doesn't want to be
I'll break it for sure. I'll break it.
I'm not worried. These things are very easy to maintain. Like the parts on them are all generic, and there's just nothing to really concern about.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to buy one anyway.
Okay. So I'll just leave that on the table. Anybody can take that up with me anytime. And
the CNC cam is turned into a beer can cam.
I saw that. His camera mount failed, I think.
Oh yeah, it's because it's off. It powered off, and then the last thing that it saw is what we're seeing.
It's the smoking gun.
Yes.
Guilty.
Yeah.
Just like
I've got
it
a
powered
question
off.
off
I
my
think I'm
head.
going to power off for now. So I'm going to say
Okay,
goodnight
Jack,
for
thanks for
now.
coming.
All right. Cheers.
Bye, Doug.
Bye.
I've got a question. As my idea of getting this one that you found there, Darcy, with the 52 millimeter spindle, and I was thinking of taking my brushless and popping it in. Is that just a drop-in replacement? Do you think if I've got a 400 watt brushless spindle, can that just pop in and use the same power, or do I have to jockey the power in separately?
Well, these little motors that come on these machines, they have a little transistor or triac or whatever on the board that runs it through PWM. Now, if you get some newfangled, brushless motor, the electrical that's with the machine isn't going to work. You'll be running it from a separate power supply and probably a knob, to adjust the speed.
Okay.
So you may very well lose the PWM ability. On the other hand, if you're prepared to spend some time, I'm sure you either replace the controller board or just find where to plug it onto the board, and maybe you can run the PWM. So that's just a fancy way of saying I don't know.
Well, I guess
it
ideally
definitely wouldn't be driven by the same driver that's running these little brush motors, right? Because you need something to create the three phases for brushless. Yeah.
But I mean, there could be a PWM out.
The one that I have has got I forget 6 wires, so it has the control. The speed control is separate from the power. So I wonder if that can be some wires go off to the power, and then a few others go into the PWM control.
I would want to look at that, like specifically, like see the actual exact board you get, and But most of those extra motors, they come with their own controller and power and everything. You could run that separate, but just run one line over to PWM. That's what I'm saying. So the Arduino, you might just jump over the built-in controller that's on the board and just run just the PWM line out. That's what I was saying, Dan. But anyway.
Well, maybe.
And if not, it's an ideal little project for an Arduino to
just
build that interface between the two.
Exactly. Or just toss the controller, just put a plain Gerbil shield on it. They're like $10 to get a whole Arduino and a shield and everything. We'll run this whole machine.
Okay. So it's got some room for tinkering with down the road.
In theory.
I mean, if I had that motor, I'd definitely want to get it on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, some very good issues came up. Like, Ray in particular is advocating that you be careful because maybe you want a bigger machine. And I really,
again,
that's a good argument.
I was hoping to hear about people's fields of dreams. That's why I kept throwing that phrase out there. So tell me,
what are you going to make with it? Good question.
Yeah, because that's interesting to me where you're going with this. Because
I have one part I need to make out of HDPE, which is a block that goes on that holds my rudder for my kayak in place. And I hit some rocks and smashed the heck out of it. And I built another one out of wood, but it's rotted out. So, and I need to make a plastic one, and it's really fussy about dimensions. So,
I'll just get Doug to make it. Yeah. That's what everyone does. Hey, Doug, make this for me.
Yeah. Well,
Now that he's gone, I'm going to tell everybody, hey, you can get Doug to make it.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to try and figure out how to use Fusion in order to model this thing, because I no longer have a working thing to build it from. I've got this. I've my only model is the space that it's supposed to fill in the rudder mechanism, and it's got multiple screws going in from multiple angles that crisscross that have to hold each other in. It's going to be tricky to model, but yeah. It's where it's trying to figure out how to position the screws that go through it. That's going to be, because of the three of them, two of them are blind, so I don't know how to get those dimensions.
Close your eyes.
Yeah. Well, but a friend of mine was suggesting what I should do is I'll just carve one out of styrofoam and then jam the screws through just from brute force where they're supposed to go, and then take it out and then measure the styrofoam block to see where the holes ended up, and
toothpicks or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
And trying
heat
to get
up
them
a metal wire.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And a little bit of spray foam.
Yeah. So anyways, and then once I've got that, then I could model it, and but I don't have any ABS to print it. So I was thinking I'd use HDPE and cut it on this thing. So that's one of my dreams. We've already talked about circuit boards ad nauseum. I like Darcy's from Sunday. I was trying to explain the print blocks to my wife, who's somewhat artistic and into that kind of thing. Actually, I forgot we have that on video, don't we?
It's so good. Yeah,
it's on YouTube.
My next one's a moon. Check out these moon blocks I'm making.
Yeah.
See,
how many?
It's going to be a whole
blocks?
7.
How do you ink them?
Only 7.
Yeah. You ink them with a brayer, and this is a brayer. This is a small brayer, and you just roll that on the ink and on the glass and spread it all out. And then you can roll that on. That's one method.
Oh, cool.
What do you think of that brush method that guy is showing? That guy.
It's amazing. Yeah, it works beautifully.
And he's using like this tiny dab of pigment too.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Ray's talking about David Bull, who's a master printmaker who lives in Japan with the name David Bull.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the Hack 613 group chat. Yeah.
What else do other people think? Like the Field of Dreams, as Ray called.
Yeah,
what do people want out of this? Yeah. Like, what do you want to make?
Come on, Andrew. Tally up. Come on. Tell us what you're up to.
I'm not sure you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Okay. These are old headphones. I'm not quite sure how good they are. But I think I'm kind of like Dan. I need to learn more about Fusion first to understand how to do these things.
Well, you can do 2.5D in SketchUp. It depends on. Yeah. What about your Field of Dreams? Tell us about your Field of Dreams.
I don't know. It's just something to tinker with. I got a cut file for a case that I wanted to put together, and I've had that kicking around for a while. And Lakota actually is good enough to maybe help me redraw it, but the 3018 would be far too small because it came drawn on like a 4x8 sheet of plywood. So designed to be cut on a big machine. And some of the pieces are probably bigger than would fit on a 3018. It'd have to go up to 60-40 for the sides of the case, probably. But in terms of like any sort of other project, I'm really not sure.
But it's flat, right? It's 2.5.
Yeah.
You can do puzzle shaped pieces, and then you just push them together with glue, and that you just keep going. Make every piece a different color. It's too easy with this design setup.
Yeah. If you're making something long and skinny, could you just keep pushing the raw stock through and recalibrating it?
That is something that I don't like about the modern 318s. Now, you used to be able to get the 318 with the moving gantry.
Yeah.
And instead of the moving table. And I was going to mention that, and I forgot about it. But
I think you can still, as long as it's not too big, it'll just ride back and forth with the machine.
Yeah. But yeah, you just shift the like if it's like 8 inches wide, it only has to, but if it's the gantry that's moving, you just keep repositioning it. And
yeah, like if you even if you maybe milled out some registration holes where you're going to clamp it to, so that, right, so every time it puts the next spot where you're going to clamp it to, so that it stays relatively.
VCarve Pro even has the built-in feature to do the registration holes for you.
Oh,
You just take a big
really?
part. It makes you a script of how to do on a smaller machine.
It's pretty easy to do the
cool.
registration holes. I mean, it's just a hole, right?
Yeah. Well, that's an old technique from old milling machines. Did that for years and years to handle big pieces. Yeah.
So how wide is the box that you're trying to build, Andrew? Can you hear us, Andrew?
Yep. Yeah, it's I don't know, it's like an artist case sort of size, or a very small briefcase. It's designed for game pieces and things like that.
Again, everything's possible. You just start using the puzzle pieces. Doug does that with his boxes. You can't even tell that it's more than one piece. I mean, it just fits together so slickly.
Oh yeah, you got to go back and take a look at the video from Sunday where Doug shows the box. That it's a bentwood box.
Oh yes, with the corners.
With the corners, yeah.
Yeah, that's inspiring.
Yeah, because there he makes he makes something much that you wouldn't think would be even possible, but it all folds together and makes something that you wouldn't otherwise be able to machine. It's impossible to describe. You got to see the video. Yeah.
Is that the one that's up on YouTube now?
It should be up on YouTube, right, Darcy? The video from Sunday. Okay. Yeah.
Like 3 hours long.
You have to fast forward. Watch it at 2x plus jumping ahead.
Yeah. All right, I'll check that out. Thanks.
Yeah, that was brilliant design.
No, but I like the stable table and the movable gantry just so that I can slide the board through and just do it in sections, and then I have an infinite length.
Yeah.
And normally the boards don't come more than 8 inches wide, so that's sort of, puts a small machine in play.
Yeah. But there was a guy that made a thing for big format where it would cut a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and it had a gantry that goes across, and it basically had a router that was on 2 cables, and it would
that's the Maslow design. It gets a little sloppy toward the edges, but it's good in the middle.
Yeah. That was also, I thought, a brilliant idea. Just
hang it on the side of your house. Yeah.
Yeah. But boy, I mean, for doing big format things like that, I mean, it just and not expensive. It was just brilliant.
It's like under $500 or something.
Yeah.
Lower tolerances, though.
Yeah, exactly. But if it's more, if you're doing cabinetry, or it's not down to sub-millimeter, but it's good enough for something that's gonna be woodwork or cabinetry, or
if you're in that middle 4-foot square, you're probably okay. But when you get out towards the edges, it gets a little. Just have to make it bigger. You have to make it like 30 feet by 30 feet. and the sweet spot is a lot more accurate.
Yeah.
Or just move the part. Same problem. Because it's got a sweet spot. Just keep moving your piece around to make parts only in the sweet spot of the machine.
Yeah, same kind of thing here. We're talking about is if you only got that 30 by 18 whatever spot to work in, then just
move it
or build it so it can all bolt together or connect together. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna pull the pin because I'm gonna go hop in the hot tub with a glass of wine and
it's gonna be on YouTube.
And exactly. So I mean, my work day is over now, right? So
so now you're gonna dump us, eh?
All right, thanks, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
See you, Dan.
All right, take care.
Are we done with the CNC talk? Or?
Well, I was going to ask Lakota and Olaf if they got anything on your Field of Dreams concept.
I want to hear.
Might help us help each other,
Well, my Field of Dreams is more of a New York-sized lawn, I suppose. Just some simple HDPE wooden bits, nothing large. I don't know if I'd even get into printed circuit boards, but HTP would primarily the material I'd be going through. And I'm wondering if laser engraving would be of any value to me, but I think I might just skip the laser out of safety concerns, and maybe down the road pick up one that I can add on.
Oh, crazy. The laser, like I have a cheap laser. I would say, like, you know, you have to have good eye protection, and it's the one thing I never leave it unattended.
Yeah.
But
It'll
with
burn your
some
house down.
basic, yeah.
House down or hurt.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, but you know, it's not, I think with a little bit of common sense, it's okay to manage. But yeah, it's a little bit of all the tools, it's the one that scares me a little bit more.
Yes, it's instant the damage, I imagine.
Yeah.
And you won't know it for a while either. I understand you'll get hit. You might suffer some issues with your eyes, but it'll be hours later when you actually realize that you'll get inflammation, and there's a long process apparently of losing your vision.
Yeah,
so
and
I don't want more worries.
You know, like the one I got, just to give you an example, it's really stupid. Like I modified it, but it was like when it wasn't connected to anything, it would turn on. Like by default, it's like a floating pin or something. But like that's just, you know, unacceptable. But that's the way they ship it. So you can add a pull down resistor and fix the problem. But imagine, like, you turn it on, and every time you would turn it on, like there was like that 1 second delay until the Arduino kicks in. It would just be on. So you know, it's very easy to, you just connect up the electronics and haven't like mounted it properly and have it turn on. So one of my friends did that and ended up with a hole on his dining room table. But you know, it could have been pointing at somebody or something like that. He was lucky.
Yeah,
Yeah. And the other thing is, if it stays, you know, if it stops moving, like if a bell snags or something like that, and will just keep shooting at the same place, you can easily start a fire. Just with not having the right feed rate and that kind of thing, I was cutting some balsa, and I put some air assist on it, so you know, it gets a lot of oxygen. And yeah, it didn't take long, and there's like a little flame coming from the balsa, so I never leave it unattended.
That's more like the field of nightmares.
Yeah. And it's also, you know, like it really stinks up the room you're using it in, and there isn't, like, it's not an easy problem to solve. So, but they are fun. Like, you can do lots of that too.
So how about Lakota? Anything on your mind?
Mainly I'm thinking of getting a CNC machine to replace a lot of the stuff that I do on the laser cutter at the library, because that way I can have a machine on hand to cut out what I need to at a time I'd like, so I can make a little bit more progress on some of my projects. And also I tend to make smaller things like jewelry pieces or parts for my robot, so a small CNC machine would be great for me. So that's why I'm thinking of getting one primarily, and that's pretty much what I plan to do.
If anybody gets the urge to borrow one from me, just take that up with me separately, and I'll happily, you know, let one or both these machines go for a while, if somebody to play around with them.
I have one, so. But I'd borrow yours just to use it for fun. But anyway,
just for fun, yeah.
Take it to the park, plug it into a lamppost.
It's very portable, these things. Okay. Well, there we have it. So no one reached the punchline of, you know, pressing the trigger to buy.
I'm going to probably tomorrow.
But yeah. Oh yeah, I think that everyone should just take whatever time it takes. So what do you guys want to do next from here? Like
shop around a little bit, because the
just keep shopping.
price
Yeah, okay.
fluctuates so much, and the options fluctuate so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I want to read over the seller feedback before I choose any one of them.
Yeah, I feel that they're kind of generic. Like it's just a bunch of metal, you know, and a bunch of stepper motors and a board. And any part that's defective, you could just buy that part on the cheap.
Yeah.
So I think if a bad seller, like the problem you're going to get into is they just don't ship it to you, you know, or maybe
Yes.
parts missing. Okay, there you go. But that depends on the agency that you're buying through. Like if you're doing eBay, what I found with eBay is you just basically say to your seller, say, look, there's a problem. And they may solve that problem right away for you. That generally they do. And if they don't, then I just go and I hit the button and write them a bad review. And then they get right back to me and say, we're going to send you the part, and can you please remove your bad review? I get I get the part or the fix from them, and then I update the bad review. And it's eBay. So I bought like so much stuff in eBay. No matter what goes wrong, it seems they just correct the problem. And when the seller fails to correct it, there's another button you can press that's to escalate it, and an eBay agent eventually takes over the file, and then they make a call. And so far on eBay, I have won. Well, I've won every single time, and I don't know how much stuff I bought there, but it's really a lot. Like it's like maybe something like $50,000 or something of stuff. You know, like that's a whole lot of stuff, big and small. So I'm a bit afraid of AliExpress. I almost lost $700 there once, and the item eventually arrived, but I wasn't able to get anything out of AliExpress. So I guess it's because they knew it was going to arrive. Maybe that's the whole. Maybe there's nothing wrong with AliExpress. It just scared me a little.
I've had one bad experience to the tune of about $100 or so, a partial package that arrived, missing some parts, and I didn't get anywhere with the seller. I didn't get anywhere with AliExpress support, so I just wrote that off a while ago. But I think part of the problem was I ordered on their Singles Day, November 11th, and I think just the massive volume of things they go through, very little attention goes to any individual order. But I've only had one bad experience.
Banggood is also pretty good. I found with customer service, I've had a couple, like once I got the wrong thing, and another time I wore it that kind of didn't completely work. But both times, like I was taken care of really quickly.
Okay, so do we need to call another meetup? Do you think, you know, in addition to our regular meetups, or do you want to take up, like, continue this at the next meetup this Sunday? How do you want to go from there? And anybody?
Well, I imagine until we start getting some parts in hand, I'm just going to be listening to what other people are up to. So I'll just join on the regular meeting if that's when it happens. Okay,
I'll tell you what I'm planning is I want to share some of the projects that I do, like not quite a tutorial, but Ray's already been in on a couple of these where I work on whatever project and share how I'm doing it. And it's all usually CNC stuff. So I'm going to start doing that, almost like tutorials, as if people are buying the machine. So even if you're going to put off buying the machine for a little while, you know, I'm going to start going on how to use one of these machines. So if you're going to take like a delay, like let's say someone, you know, it's taking a month before they get the money together for it, whatever, then you can start, because even when you get the machine in your hand right away, you need to start learning how to make files to run on the machine. So that might take a month or whatever before you're really comfortable. So I'm going to start that right away, so that by the time we actually have some people, and of course we already have Isabel, she's got a machine, and then I got 1 to 2 machines to lend out. So pretty soon there'll be people that have machines anyway. So I'm just going to go right ahead as if everybody bought the machine right away and start doing little hangouts online.
That sounds really good. I think especially the software workflow, and
yeah, exactly.
If you can, you know, if we're able to do it with Fusion or, you know, free software, it's really helpful, because that's where
I made a Moon one last week, but the problem with the Moon one is that I used Inkscape, which is free, But then I used VCarve, which you've noted is $1,000 to buy the Pro grade. But I would like to figure that one out in Fusion. And Ray and I'll probably do a jam session sometime soon and try to work that out. And then the whole software tool chain will be all free. And then you can make moons and all this other stuff to the methodology that I'm using. So I'll probably host like maybe right away. I'll do one maybe soon if there's any. I'll post in the list. If there's any interest, I'll run one of how I'm making the moons with the VCarve software. And as soon as I can figure out how to do it in Fusion, then that's cool too. Then I'll do one on that.
Yeah, that would be great.
But I got Fusion running. I made this wooden box here on Fusion. See, wooden box made out of Fusion in 2 parts. And I made all kinds of 3D printed stuff, like funny things like the vacuum handles, stuff like this for dust control on the CNC. So thanks to you, actually, for advocating for doing the Isabel. And Ray and Isabel were advocating for doing the Fusion 360. We wound up, we all saw each other's show and tell, and I'm off the ground now. I'm using Fusion now because of that. It took me a long while to be able to just get the support going, you know?
Stuff that went very wrong, but anyway.
That your dice project?
Yeah, I was making a template for making masks out of styrofoam. That I'll show you that someday, but right now I'm sort of in the process of making these masks, these dust masks that fit really well. Just a second. So I cut that out of styrofoam, but it's okay. I'm going to turn off my.
It's a special cloaking device.
Turn off my cloaking device. Yeah. Okay. My dollar store green screen. But this is styrofoam, and I just cut that out, and this really fits well because with the N95s, it's really the leakage. So this is uber cheap. This is whoops. This is like those little sponges that you get from the dollar store. You know, these things.
All those, yeah.
Yeah, so that's gives me the sponge, and it fits really well with very little pressure, and I got a fairly large area. Probably twice as much space here as I need, and this could be like a mass-produced thing. It's just something I've been playing with. I'm not taking the plague very seriously. At first I did, and now I'm wondering, what's going on. If I hear the word plague, I expect to see zombies, and I haven't seen any zombies, so I'm starting to wonder. But I've been working on that, so that's when I get it finished, I'll show you my path on that. But it's a bit of fun. And I'll end up with dust masks for life.
So I guess we'll continue at the next meetup with this. And if anybody needs anything, just throw it in the list and I'll happily do the best I can to help. And I'll try to run some workshops starting soon. I know other people will. Maybe Ray will if we're lucky. I know Lakota can do a lot of stuff. Doug and I are already planning some stuff with CNC and electronics and circuit boards. We're actually doing jam sessions, working out the details for that right now. I don't know how long that'll take to materialize. If we're lucky, maybe next week or something, we might start. That's probably optimistic, but so I'll announce in the list the next thing I'm doing, and I look forward to what everybody else is doing.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Anything else on anybody's mind? I say we adjourn and we see each other all next
Okay.
the next meetup.
Okay, so we're
Yeah.
finished up.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Stop recording.
Good night.
Yeah, recording is going on.